For about 20 years, the world of football was pretty sure it had cracked the code. They thought they'd found the perfect formula, a tactical system so good, so dominant, it was basically considered unbreakable. It was called the WM. But all of that confidence, it was about to get completely demolished in one afternoon.
I mean, listen to how people talked about it. They didn't just say it was a loss or a defeat. They said it was a murder. That's a heavy word, right? And it really sets the stage for just how big of a deal this moment was.
And that's the big question we're tackling today. How on earth did a single 90-minute football match back in 1953 completely rewrite the rules of the sport? We're going to dive into the incredible story of Hungary's magical Magyars and show you how they didn't just win a game. They took football's most powerful idea and shattered it, paving the way for the game we all watch and love today.
Okay, so to really get the impact of this revolution, you first have to understand the old way of doing things. And back in the 1950s, the old way, the only way, was the WM formation. The WM, which was the brainchild of the legendary Arsenal manager Herbert Chapman, wasn't just a strategy. It felt more like a piece of industrial machinery. This 3-2-2-3 system was seen as flawless, and for England, it was the foundation of their entire identity as the unbeatable kings of football.
The whole philosophy behind it was pretty straightforward, but for the time it was devastatingly effective. See, every player had one guy to mark, one job to do, and one patch of grass they were responsible for. It was all about physical power and rigid discipline. The source material puts it perfectly. It was less like a game and more like a factory shift. You just clock in, you do your specific task over and over, and you clock out.
But while England was perfecting its football factory, something completely different, something organic, was growing behind the Iron Curtain in Hungary.
The Hungarian coach, a guy named Gustav Sabis, had this totally radical vision. He didn't want a team of specialists. He dreamed of a socialist brigade, a group of players so technically gifted and so smart that anybody could play any position. It was really the seed of what we'd later call total football, this idea that any player can seamlessly take over the role of any other player.
So you can see right here, this was a massive clash of ideas. England's WM was all about controlling a specific player. The Hungarian idea, it was about controlling space. England relied on muscle. Hungary relied on skill and constant fluid movement. They fundamentally disagreed on what football even was.
So, how were the Hungarians going to break this supposedly unbreakable system? Well, they had a secret weapon. You could almost call it a tactical ghost.
And that secret weapon, the key that was about to unlock the WM's rigid cage, was an idea we now call the false nine. It was all built around their striker doing the exact opposite of what every striker on the planet was taught to do.
Okay, let me break down how this worked, because it's brilliant. In the WM, the English center back had one job and one job only: mark the other team's number 9, their main striker. But Hungary's striker, Nandor Hidecuti, would just leave. He'd drop way back into the midfield. This created an unsolvable problem for his defender. If the defender follows him, he leaves a massive hole in the defense for legends like Ferenc Puskás to run into. But if he stays put, well, now he's just marking empty grass, and Hidecuti is totally free in midfield, pulling all the strings. It was tactical checkmate. There was no right answer.
So with this absolute system killer up their sleeve, the magical Magyars traveled to the very heart of the football empire, the legendary Wembley Stadium. So, picture the scene. It's November 1953. England had never ever lost a match at home to a team from outside the British Isles. They were so confident, so arrogant, they honestly just expected to show up and cruise to an easy win. They had absolutely no idea what was about to hit them.
That was the final score, 6-3. Now, to put that into perspective, this wasn't just a loss. This was a total demolition, a complete and utter humiliation on their own turf. The kings of football didn't just lose their crown, it was ripped away from them.
The Hungarians played a brand of football that must have looked like it came from another planet. Their captain, the great Ferenc Puskás, scored this unbelievable goal where he dragged the ball back with the sole of his boot, and the English captain, Billy Wright, just went flying past him. The quote here says it all. He slid past like he just stepped on a banana peel. It was sorcery versus statues. But honestly, the 6-3 scoreline almost didn't matter. The real damage was psychological. In just 90 minutes, the WM, this unbeatable system, was exposed for what it was: an old, slow, clunky dinosaur. The factory had been outclassed by the art studio.
That final whistle didn't just signal the end of a match. It kicked off a brand new era. It was like a new blueprint for how to play football had just been revealed to the entire world. What the magical Magyar really were, when you look back, was the bridge from the old, rigid game to the modern, fluid one we see today. They proved, once and for all, that tactical brains and controlling space will always beat brute force and sticking to one spot. That was the big lesson.
And you can literally draw a straight line from this one match to the great tactical revolutions that came next. I mean, think about it. Just a few years later, in 1958, Brazil wins the World Cup with a 4-2-4 system built on very similar ideas of fluid attacking play. And then, by 1974, the Dutch took the whole idea to its ultimate conclusion with total football, which was the complete realization of Gustav Siebes's original dream.
And let's be clear, this team was no fluke. At their absolute peak, the magical Magyars were statistically the highest-rated national team in history, according to the ELO rating system. They weren't just great, they were legendary.
So that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. Was the rigid WM formation already on its last legs, just a dinosaur waiting to go extinct? Or did it take the sheer genius of the magical Magyars on one unforgettable afternoon at Wembley to finally pull the trigger and, well, murder it for good?